And this time with no serious Democratic opposition, Andy Caffrey aside. How's it feel different than 2 years ago?
Well, these are the kind of numbers I was hoping for. So I'm pleased, I'm humbled, but really I'm just going to try to keep my eye on the ball and keep doing good work in this office. That's the best thing any incumbent politician can do. It's the best politics. Just do good work.
You feel like you're comfortable there now? Does it take 2 years to settle in?
I've got a lot more to learn, but I know a lot more today than I did when I was sworn in January of 2013.
I've got to ask you a real Washington question.
Yeah.
The House is going to stay Republican come November. What do you think is going to happen in the Senate? Democrats control the Senate now, what, 5 votes?
Well, you and I were talking earlier, Dick. I think I called all the races that I endorsed incorrectly this time, so I'm going to put my credibility on the line and say the Democrats hold the Senate.
Really?
And that probably the Democrats either hold ground or maybe even pick up a few seats in the House. We won't, we won't take back the House unless something dramatic shifts between now and November, but we have a chance to take a few seats.
That's the situation that's developing right now in Mississippi could be a lucky break for the Democrats if Thad Cochran, the longtime Republican, relatively moderate conservative Republican, goes down.
Yeah,
it gives the
Tea Party could put a seat in play for Democrats that wasn't previously thought to be.
That's happened before in Nevada and Delaware.
Yes, it has, and Indiana.
And Indiana as well.
And elsewhere.
Yeah.
How difficult is it for you being part of the minority in this House of Representatives?
It's tough. You know, I was part of a strong Democratic majority in Sacramento. We passed lots of legislation. I chaired committees. It's very different to be in a huge, slow-moving institution and then add to that being in the minority in a place where the rules are really all for the majority. It's much more of a tyranny of the majority in Washington than it was even in Sacramento. So that's one thing we have to change. If and when the Democrats take back the House, we need to run it much more equitably and professionally, I think, than what we've seen in this Congress.
Of course, the Republicans claimed back in the old days when they took over in the Gingrich Revolution that that's exactly what the Democrats had done. That it was, the Democrats ran everything and they were relegated to the back of backbenches. And is that endemic to Washington, D.C.?
The accounts that I get, Dick, are that really the Gingrich Revolution was the beginning of this scorched earth, partisan sort of, we've got the majority and we're just going to run roughshod over the rest of the House. And that we need to somehow get past these cycles of vengeance and retribution and start figuring out ways to work together.
I know Leader Pelosi is very popular among the members. But at some point in time, she'll make a decision on her own.
Yeah.
That it's been a great experience and time to spend more time with the grandkids, which she has, and that's serious. If she does, and she will at some point in time, who's up there as possible Democratic leaders or potential speakers?
Well, right now, she is the undisputed leader of our caucus, so there's not a lot of open speculation going on in that regard, and we're all hoping that she continues to lead. But we have a deep bench. We've got a lot of great leaders, and it includes senior folks that have been around, from Steny Hoyer to any number of others, to some real great up-and-comers like Chris Van Hollen and others.
Steny Hoyer is not an automatic, though.
Who knows? I think there's going to be such a vacuum if and when Nancy ever does retire that it's going to be a wild one. But the good news is we've got a great bench.
Policy-wise, what's happening in the next term that you think is going to be front and center?
Well, a lot of it depends what happens with the Senate. If the Republicans take control, I hope they won't, but if they do, I think that's a very different dynamic.
To be sure.
But, at some point, I think the voters and elected officials in Washington have to realize that you have to get some things done. There's just been this obstruction and lack of productivity in Washington for the last 2 Congresses, unlike anything I can remember in my lifetime. That has to change, and I hope that we can elect and unelect the right people in this election cycle to move us toward that.
Your district stretches from the Golden Gate Bridge to the Oregon line. Our viewing audience is, I guess, southern Mendocino South, but I'm kind of curious about Mendocino North.
Yeah.
How's it been to represent a district which is very different from what you represent in the Assembly?
Yeah. The truth is I love it. It gives me responsibility over some very remote rural areas. It gives me more Indian tribes in my congressional district than any congressional district in America.
Wow.
The natural resource economy, the environmental sides to that, the industries, It's a fascinating challenge, and I could not ask for a more beautiful district or a more interesting and diverse district.
That's certainly one to keep you busy in the next couple of years. We congratulate you on your first term. It looks like odds are very favorable for a second term, and I want to thank you very much for making time to talk with us here this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Jared, thank you.